Hi, 7th grade. I hope you had a great long weekend. Today we are going to continue in chapter 1, a little bit more review, this time on fractions and decimals. Instead of writing out fractions and decimals, I wrote fractions and decies for some shorthand. If that makes sense to you, you should do it also. Otherwise, you should write out the word. Remember that these notes are for you. We'll be having a quiz later this week that will be open notes. So if your notes are organized and easy to read, you'll be able to come back and find all the information that you need. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to be talking about two different types of decimals today, terminating decimals and repeating decimals. Terminating decimals are decimals that stop. You know, like if you were to divide 1 into 4, right? 1/4. The 1 goes inside, the 4 goes outside, and that ends 0.25. Just, it stops. Repeating decimals don't stop. They have a sequence, a pattern, something that repeats and goes on and on and on. So the definition we're writing is a decimal that repeats without end. Today it's going to be important that you use long division, okay? You might be handy on a calculator, but that's not what we're going to be using today. Feel free to check your answers, but be sure that all of your answers have the work to prove that you've done it correctly. So with long division, our numerator goes inside, our denominator goes outside. When we don't have a big enough number on the inside, we add a decimal and as many zeros as we will need to finish the problem. So if I start with 30, 11 goes into 32 times. Bring up that decimal, and that's 22. And when I subtract, I get 8. So I'm going to add another 0. 11 goes into 80 7 times, 77. When I subtract, I get 3. Add another 0. That goes in 2 times. Subtract, I get 8. You guys seeing what I'm seeing? It's a pattern, which means this is a repeating decimal. It's going to go on forever. Okay, so once you have figured out the pattern, you can stop. Your answer can be written with a repetend, which is the line over the top. You only write what repeats one time. The repetend shows that that's what repeats. Okay, so if, for example, we had 0.3333333, we're just going to write 1, 3. Right? Dot, dot, dot means continue, and the repetend means that that is what repeats. Okay? If we had something like, maybe an answer was 0.3155555, okay? This answer would turn into 0.315 with the repetend over just the 5. Okay, so it only goes over the part that repeats. Okay. So we're going to be doing, I think, 3 different types of problems today, maybe 2. So the next one I want to try, example 2, is going to be to turn a mixed number, turning a decimal into a mixed number and then simplifying it. So let's say that we have 1.325. This is an example from your book, okay? And the directions are to write as a mixed number and simplify. So with these, right, we have a 1, that's a whole number, so that's going to be part of our answer no matter what. It's the 0.325. We need to figure out how to turn it into a decimal, from a decimal into a fraction, and then we need to reduce that fraction. Okay, so the quickest way is to tenths, hundredths. This is definitely something you've done before. It should be review, but for some of us it was a long summer. So after the decimal, there's no ones, right? We jump straight into the tenths, then we have the hundredths place, and then the thousandths place. So whichever the last digit is in, whatever place value that is, that's what the whole number goes over. So we have 325 thousandths. Okay? And then from here, now that we've turned the decimal into a fraction, we need to reduce it. So I generally start small, right? So 2. 325 is an even. So even though 2 can go into 1,000, it can't go into this, so I can't use it. 3, the quick way for 3 is to add up the sum of all the numbers, right? So 1 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0, 1. 3 doesn't go into that, so it doesn't matter, it won't work. The next step is 5, right? It has to end in 0 or 5. Hopefully you remember these divisibility rules. This is a big part of the beginning of 6th grade. So I know that 5 goes into this. Now, because I'm a math teacher, I do know there's a larger one, but maybe I can't think of that right now, so I'm just going to do one at a time. Any side work that you do, please don't erase, okay? I love work, and I don't even mind a mess. So wherever your work is, 325, I can't think off the top of my head right now, so I'm going to do my long division off to the side. 5 goes into 30, 6 times, bring down the 2, bring down the 5, goes in even, nothing left over, so 65 is my new numerator, and then 1,000, maybe I can't remember that either, so I'm going to show my work off to the side. It goes in 2 times, even, so then I bring up those other zeros, and I get 200. Now again, those divisibility rules work again. 5 goes into the number if it ends in 5 or if it ends in 0. So now I can divide by 5 one more time. 65 divided by 5 is 13. And again, if I don't know that, I can do the off to the side longhand. And 200 divided by 5 is 40. So now I check for any common factors. 2 doesn't go into 13. 3 doesn't go into either. 5 doesn't go into either. 7. No, I think we're good. Simplified, right? 13 is prime, and 13 doesn't go into 40, so it won't be able to be reduced. So this is only the first, or the second part, right? We need to add our 1 from the beginning of the problem, okay? So don't forget that. The 2 pieces have to come together, okay? All right, guys, we haven't done one of these yet, but I know for most of you, if you were here last year, you're gonna do a U-try, okay? So you're gonna do the same thing that I just did, except you're gonna have 2.48, okay? Please turn this into a mixed number. always reduce your answers. All right, so pause it if you need to. I'm going to work quietly. Okay, if you got it, please check your answer, and if you're not quite finished, please pause. We're going to go over to the last part. All right, the last part is ordering from least to greatest. Ordering from least to greatest. Let's say okay, example 3. We're going to order from least to greatest. Let's say we have 2, 2.5, and 2 6/18. So the first thing we need to do is put them all in the same form. That, you might have a favorite. You might like to have everything in a decimal. You might like to have everything in a fraction. It's totally up to you. I would look to see if there's, you know, 2 of one kind, right? If there were 2 decimals, then I would flip the last one into a decimal also. Here we have 1 whole number, 1 decimal, 1 fraction. So it doesn't really matter what we pick. I'm going to go ahead. 0.5 is pretty easy to throw into a fraction, so I'm going to do that, right? Because 0.5 is half. So I'm going to leave 2, then I have 2 1/2, and then this can be simplified, right? Because 6 goes into 18. So if I divide this by 6, I get 2 1/3. Okay? 2 1/3, which I happen to know because, again, I've worked with fractions and decimals for a while, and maybe you have gotten to recognize these as well. 1/3 is a decimal, so 1/3 is 0.3 with a repeating bar, okay? That's that 3 that goes on and on and on and on. So if I was to compare them as a decimal, I would have 2.5 and 2.333333333, or as fractions if you're more comfortable with fractions, okay? I've got 1/3, and then I've got 1/3 and 1/2. So if I need to compare these from least to greatest, you could use a number line, whatever is going to make sense for you. I know that if we're talking about pizza slices, if you have 2 slices, you have 2 1/2 slices and 2 1/3, that 2 is the smallest, right? Because at least with both of these, there's a little bit extra, okay? So 2 is going to be my first number. My next one, so if we use even a circle, not drawn exactly the same, but if I cut 1 in half and 1 into almost 3 perfectly even parts, I see that half, right, is bigger. 1/2, 1 out of the 2, is bigger than 1 out of the 3, right? So 1/3 is my next. And I'm going to write my next one, instead of 2 1/3, even though that is second, I'm going to write it in the form that it was given to me. So 6/18. Okay, 6/18, because that was the form given. And then lastly, I'm going to write 2.5, because even though 2 1/2 is my biggest number, I'm going to leave it, I'm going to put it back in the form that was given. Okay, guys? So these are the 3 different types of problems you're going to be doing today. Using long division, simplifying, and then ordering. Okay? If you have any questions, please reach out. I will have office hours at 2:15. We're on homework number 4 now. 1, 2, 3, and then the puzzle. It wasn't really an assignment. I mean, it was, but it's not a book assignment. So homework number 4, we are on page 22, and oh, actually, I think the problems are on page 24. The lesson starts on page 22. Page 24, we're going to do numbers. Eight through 26 even. Thanks, guys.